Good afternoon, Dallas. Thank you for having me. I'm here today to talk a little bit more than transformation. I'm here today to talk a little bit about dreams. Because at Cummins, we had a dream. We had a dream about our HR function being really best in class. And since we're going to be talking a little bit about dreams, I thought it would be important to give a little bit of context to you and talk about a couple of dreamers. So I wanted to share with you the story of two men. The first one, his name is Nicodemo. He was born in Ciro, Calabria, in Italy in 1871. And he too had a dream. But his dream was very simple. He just wanted to provide a good future for his young family. He lived in a very poor area and was not able to, he knew that if he stayed, he was not going to be able to provide, a stable future for his family, so he made a tough decision to leave and start a new life in a very distant country, in a different continent. The second story I would like to tell is of this man. His name is Akiyoshi. Similar to Nicodemo, he lived in the Kumamoto area in Japan, and he too had a dream. In this post-war period where food was really scarce and the resources were not plentiful, so he also had to make a tough choice, and he decided to leave. His dream was to start a business, and he too moved to a different continent, and where he later found his soon-to-be wife, who had just arrived from Croatia in Brazil, and they got married and had a wonderful family and actually started a business together where they ran for many, many years. And you might be wondering what these two men have in common. And they have two things in common. The first one is they were both dreamers. They were not satisfied with the status quo, and they wanted to change. They wanted to be better. That's number one. The second thing that they have in common is they're my family. So the first man is my great-great-grandfather, and the second man is my grandfather. And I like to think that I have inherited from my family more than just my passion for pizza, Italian wine, sushi, sense of fashion, and preference for round-shaped glasses. Right? I like to think that I have inherited this trait of being a dreamer. I have always dreamed to make things better, to drive change, to leave a legacy behind. And that's what actually brought me here. Right? This desire to challenge the status quo and to drive improvement is what led me to Cummins. And that's when I had my first interview with Cummins. I knew I belonged in there. Because Cummins is a company that really encourages all 56,000 employees around 60 countries. We have grown since the last time I gave you the data. So we have expanded. And we encourage all 56,000 employees around the world to really find new ways of doing things. So I knew I belonged in there, and I knew I was going to work with a lot of dreamers. And we have this belief that it's a creed at Cummins that we learned from our former CEO, Mr. Miller, that's really expensive to be mediocre in this world. It really is. So we have an obligation and a privilege to do the best in everything we do. And that's how we are in our HR organization. We're always trying to find ways of doing things better. And we had a dream. And let me share with you how this dream started. In the fall of 2014, we had a leadership meeting, and there was this sense of relief in the air. we had been working really hard to finish one of our key talent processes, which is the high potential identification. I know we have a lot of talent management leaders here, so you guys can relate to this, how important this process is. Try to understand who your A players are. And we had just finished. It took us 4 months. We were looking around and we're like, oh, great, we feel so great, but we cannot relax too much because we need to get ready for the next big process, which was merit. And then reality started to sink in and said, really, it took us 4 months to do one process. There has to be a better way. And that's how we started shaping this dream of having an HR organization that was really efficient, really effective, and very insightful. We wanted our HR people to spend less time in operations and more time being business partners, more time trying to transform HR into much more evidence-based approach. So we launched this challenge upon ourselves and said, how can we transform our HR organization? And that sounded great. And I know a lot of you here today, you also have this dream and probably working towards this dream, and you can relate to how hard this is. It's not easy, right? And especially when we looked at where we were, we had 5 different systems, 352 interfaces, right? Thousands of customizations, right? And very little appetite for change. So we said, okay, how are we going to do? How are we going to do this? How are we going to drive this change? And we came up with a framework that I'm going to share with you here, and I hope you can find this useful as you too are driving some of these conversations in your organization. Okay? And the way we went about doing this is by anchoring our conversation in 3 pillars. The pillar of transformation, integration, and insights. If you remember nothing else from the talk today other than just my Latino accent, remember this slide. This slide is very important. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of these pillars. The first one is transformation. And when we say transformation, people have different ideas of what transformation means in their minds. And we wanted to make sure that at Cummins, people understood transformation the same way. What do we mean by transformation? And we anchored in 3 points. The first one is best in class versus maximum efficiency. What does that mean? So oftentimes, organizations, especially HR organizations, they really want to be excellent in everything they do. And that's okay. But the problem about taking this peanut butter spread approach is that it doesn't drive the discipline that you need to really be good at where drives value to your organization. So we started having a conversation about how we can think strategically about where in HR we cannot afford to be mediocre. We have to be the best. And where are the areas that we simply are okay being efficient at? And that, as you can imagine, created a lot of tension. It's not the type of conversation that people, they sit and, hold hands and sing Kumbaya and everybody agrees. It's a tough conversation to have because everybody thinks their area deserves to be best in class, right? Especially in a culture where everybody is encouraged to be excellent. So we had several conversations and we landed that where Cummins must be best in class if we want to win in the marketplace is in the talent space. And we were going to make 0 compromises in that. So whether it was business process or technology, and that was the anchor that we used to decide which solution to use. And then everybody else would have just to say, well, okay, let's get in line. So it was a tough conversation, but we wanted to make sure people understood we must be best in class in the talent management space. The second point is extremely important, and I know we probably have some veterans here who are who have been doing this type of implementation for quite some time, so you're probably going to remember this. But in the old days of on-premise solution, the way we did implementation was really that waterfall approach where you would come and say, tell me what your requirements are with a blank piece of paper, and we would go in and try to bend the product as much as we could to address your requirements, right? The world has changed. In this new world of software as a service, of cloud, that's no longer an option. We had to change the dialogue. We had to win people's hearts and minds by helping them understand what was in it for them and saying, hey, we are going to be able to leverage this product that will have innovation every other 6 months if you are able to change your process here. So we had to drive that conversation and help people understand that it's just a different world. And yes, sometimes you have to change your process to adopt the technology. And the last point was, for many, many years, we were very HR-centric, and we were designing solutions that served the needs of HR. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to be more employee-centric or talent-centric. We wanted to drive a message that we care about our workforce the same way we care about our customers. So we want to drive an employee experience that's very similar to this customer experience. And then we started incorporating elements of design thinking and trying to understand journey maps and try to get insights from those journey maps. And those were the 3 points that we were really driving really hard, make sure people understood what we meant by transformation. The second point is integration. As I mentioned, we had 5 different systems, right? We had a system for performance management. We had a different system for LMS. We had a different system for recruiting, right? Another one for core HR. And they rarely talk to each other. So we wanted to change the conversation to say, we need to think about an ecosystem. We need to think about an ecosystem where there is much more simpler and much more secure flow of information. I've learned really early on in my career that interfaces are really expensive to design, build, and maintain. So you want to minimize the number of interface and integrations that you have. So you want to have an entire ecosystem. And the last one ties to this notion of employee experience. We wanted to be able to provide to our workforce a seamless experience across devices. Some people may have a preference for desktop, some people may have a preference for mobile. We wanted to say, it doesn't matter. Pick whatever works best for you. What we're going to provide to you will work regardless. And then the last and more, in my view, important point is insights. HR information systems, they're a means to an end. The end goal here really is, how do you drive insights to your business leaders so they can make more informed decisions? Right? Yes, you drive better efficiencies, you drive better employee experience, but what's in it for leaders, right? Your business leaders really is the insights that they get out of this. So we had some homework to do. We wanted our HR organization, we had to transform our HR organization, not only the processes, but the role of our HR practitioners. From being producers of data, from creating and slicing spreadsheets, to being data consumers. I don't know about you, I've been in HR my entire career, and I can guarantee that was not my passion for Excel that made me make the decision to work in HR. It was just not. But we were hiring people that were really good in Excel to be HR practitioners at Cummins. It was a very valuable skill. But we wanted to change that. We wanted them to really understand the data, understand the insights that the data was driving, and have conversations with the business leaders. The second point that we had to address head on is this idea of single point data reports. And I'm sure a lot of you probably face this challenge today, where if your leadership asks you for a certain question or a certain data, you have to go to 5 different places and pull different data, merge them and massage them, and then give back to the leader, so that the leader say, oh, by the way, I forgot to ask you this other thing, go back and redo everything. So we wanted to be able to provide a one-stop shop for all things analytics. All things analytics for our leaders. No, like, where do I need to go to get this data? It's in one place. And we used to spend a lot of time just doing descriptive analytics, just running like our regular day-to-day operational KPIs. And we really wanted to push the envelope and drive more predictive and prescriptive analytics. That was part of the dream, too. That was part of the dream. And the last point is really about less reports and more dashboards. Because the challenge we had was every meeting we had with HR or business leaders, we spend more time, because we had reports, we spend more time debating the data than talking about what the data meant. So by focusing on aggregated level data and dashboards, it took away that distraction and was really driving more the conversation around, so what are we going to do with this? And that's the biggest driver for us. And just to give you one idea of where we were, up until last year, our primary reporting tool that we had in HR was this one. Are you guys familiar with this? This is Oracle BI Discoverer. Some of you probably don't even know that this existed. It has been supported for many, many years. But this is where we got our data. This is where we got our data. So I know I'm seeing some faces on the crowd. It's like, oh my God, I used to work on that in 1988, right? But our challenge was, how could we move from this to this? To something totally revamped, to something that was more intuitive, that was more user-friendly, using elements, again, of design thinking, and getting our leaders comfortable, and thinking about what works for them. What works for them? What would provide them a excellent experience that would draw them into the dashboards? And then we took a step further. We said, this is great. It looks great on this dashboard. But our dream was bolder than that. We didn't want just to have this on a laptop for leaders. We wanted to have our own version of our minority reports. And then what we did, we took a step further, and we did this. So we put those dashboards in this 70-inch TV, touchscreen TV, in the office of our executives, and made that available 24/7 so they can use it. And for those of you who are curious who that person is, that's Andrew, who's right here. And by the way, the data that you're seeing, it's all fake data, so no worries there. So we, again, using elements of design thinking and trying to get insights from how could we leverage that information to draw leaders into the dashboards, we came up with this idea. And here are the results of this journey. We had 98% user adoption on year one. 98% user adoption. 95% reduction of manual effort in driving workforce insights to our leaders. We had an 84% cycle time reduction for our compensation and talent management processes. Think about this, just the level of efficiencies that we were able to drive. Thank you. We were able to drive real-time operational dashboards. It used to take 2 to 3 weeks in the past, data latency, and we moved to 1 day data latency. Near real-time data for the descriptive analytics. And 100% elimination of inconsistencies in all our analysis and insights. So everybody was looking at the same data, no more debating, oh, your report looks different than mine. So I wanted to share with you this framework that hopefully you can find helpful as you are driving some of these conversations in your business. And I also wanted to give you some tips for the journey. As you continue to pursue your dream and continue on your journey, here's a couple things for you to take with you. The first one is focus. Sometimes we struggle with scope. We try to boil the ocean. My advice is don't. Go for the low-hanging fruit, quick wins, build on them. Don't wait for perfection. The second point is change management. And we have this mantra in our team. Engage early and repeat often. And don't underestimate that the biggest resistance will come from within. It's really not your leaders or employees who are going to resist using the technology or adopting the technology. I mean, you log into your online banking one day and then go back on the next day and it looks totally different and you don't call the bank to complain, right? So we are used to this. The biggest challenge really is your HR organization. And you have to win their hearts and minds because that's where the biggest resistance will come from. I cannot stress enough the importance of design thinking. Put yourself on your shoes of the people that you're building a solution for. Really take this human-centered approach and strive to drive this superior user experience. Your employees will enjoy that. They will appreciate it. And again, analytics. Just leverage all the analytics, all the insights that all these tools now they provide to help you build the business case and gain support from your leaders. Once they know what's in it for them, they will support you and they will invest on your transformation project. And now that you have the recipe for this dream, the recipe on how to go about this journey and as you're pursuing this dream, I encourage you to continue your journey, dream on, and then pass the dream along to the next generation. Because they too deserve it to dream and make the world a better place. Thank you.